Very few of us had landlines, but now almost everybody has a cell phone. I've seen digital payments take off. So I truly am here because I believe the power of technology to democratize so many things.
Hi everyone, thanks for tuning into Nodes of Design. To help support our mission spread knowledge, we have a very special guest in today's episode. Let's welcome Deepak Menon, Vice President at Microsoft India, leading the product experience, design and research teams across products in experience and devices and SCIM division at Microsoft India. They include products like Windows, Teams, Office, Edge, Search, Bing, OneDrive, SharePoint, Outlook and Loop. Deepak's team helped define the enquiry around what is productivity for billions of mobile-only users, which has led to introduce the innovations like Kaizala and Microsoft Office mobile products that help businesses connect with their value chain to collaborate and compete consumer and business workflows. Deepak was also responsible for designing and redefining the ribbon interface for Microsoft Office. He was also the driver for Microsoft Center for Information Work, which reimagined the future of productivity and won the IDSA Gold Award in 2003. Deepak has worked at Google, leading user experience teams in India and Seattle in the past, and he was also the Chief Product and Customer Officer at Myntra, leading teams across multiple functions. In this episode, Deepak had shared great insights on designing for innovation. We had discussed the role that design plays in driving innovation within an organization, and Deepak shared a project example where design was crucial in fostering innovation. Then we spoke on what role does diversity and empathy play in design process when aiming for innovation, and how to balance practicality and creativity when designing for innovation. We then discussed how to create a collaborative and interdisciplinary environment where design works seamlessly with other functions like engineering, marketing, and product management to create innovations. Later then we spoke on how to approach exploring emerging trends and technologies and how to ensure we are staying ahead, along with measuring the success or impact of an innovative design solution. We then concluded the episode by Deepak's take on emerging technologies or trends that he finds particularly exciting or promising for driving the innovation in design. Join us every week as we delve into the design world, hearing from visionary leaders who shape our lives and inspire our future. We uncover the stories, inspirations, and insights of design luminaries at the forefront of innovation. Thank you, and until the next time, may your dreams be inspired by brilliance of design. Hi everyone, thanks for tuning into Nodes of Design. In this episode, we have a very special guest with us. Hi Deepak, welcome to Nodes of Design.
Lovely to be here.
So Deepak, how was your day so far?
Oh, it's been awesome. Walked my dog and did some calorie fighter, which I think I'll talk about also a little bit later. So yeah.
Wow, that's wonderful, Deepak. So if you could give a brief about yourself to our audience out there.
Brief about myself. So I'm Deepak, lead design in the experiences and devices organization at Microsoft in India. Love to indulge in all sorts of product making activities, as well as love sports. So that's me.
That's wonderful, Deepak. So what was your journey into design? How did you start, and what are your tips to the beginners on starting their design journey?
Well, we have to go to the dark ages for this one. My parents, my dad was an IITian, that's a premier institute in India. My mom, sociologist. They gave me incredible amount of freedom to do, whatever I wanted to do. So I used to indulge in a lot of frivolous activities, used to play a lot of sports. And during that time, I was actually very, very inspired by my mother's brother, who was an architect. He used to design homes and hotels. And so when I used to travel, what used to impress me most was when people used to step, or even I used to step in these awesome looking hotels and new homes. It used to elicit such an amazing amount of joy. And that's what truly inspired me to become an architect. So I did my bachelor's and master's in architecture. But in the spring of 1999, things changed pretty dramatically. And it was all because of a movie called The Matrix. And while it showed the metaverse probably before even the word got popular, it was truly the first time that I saw how software could define, experiences at scale. And so that's when I chose to do another master's in design. And I'm not sure most of your audiences may even know at that point in time, there was this huge hunking thing called cathode ray monitors that used to stick on, most people's desks. In fact, most office buildings and interiors were designed around this. People were tethered to their desk, and I wanted to liberate them as an architect. And so during my master's thesis, I designed a cloud-based OS. And I know, yes, now it's obvious, but at that point in time in the 90s, it was not necessarily obvious, and it allowed access to data from anywhere in the world. And that's how I got into Microsoft. And since then, my career has been mostly about designing experiences, mostly keeping technology at the center, and I've been loving it. So across, Microsoft in 3 different stints, and then Google, and then at Myntra. Myntra is an Indian e-commerce company. Truly loved, designing these experiences wherein technology almost becomes a key ingredient in designing those experiences. And so I think the one thing that has kept me both motivated as well as, energized, I think throughout has been, being curious, in terms of how humans experience their surroundings, and how technology can play a huge role in that. And that's what I would advise most beginners, is to just be curious and remain curious. I think that's my biggest piece of advice, because that's what I think keeps me going. I would love for, that to be, if anyone has to take anything away from this, just continue being curious. So, yeah.
Thank you so much, Deepak. So let's get our episode started into designing for innovation. So what role does design play in driving innovation within an organization? Could you please share a project where design was crucial in fostering the culture of innovation?
Pretty obvious now. It's a pretty crucial one. So this is the way I would like to structure. Probably a couple of decades ago, most of humankind used to kind of get access to technology at their workplace. Their computer used to be mostly prevalent either in academia or in their workplace. And that used to kind of define how most often that people used to experience technology for the first time. I think in the last couple of decades, and most probably in the last decade, it's become increasingly obvious that consumers probably the leading edge of technology. And so we are well past the stage where in most areas where technology is the differentiator of why a particular product is adopted. And so I have come to believe that the experience is the product in most instances. In fact, the way I would kind of architect it is probably that we are in the interface layer of innovation now. And that's where design kind of is the key differentiator. And probably one of the key project or products that I'd like to talk about is an esoteric one. Not many people may even know about it. It's this product at Microsoft that we created called Kaizala. It was a mobile messaging product that allowed enterprises to talk to their frontline workers without bringing the complexity of the enterprise. And I think that was pretty key. It was a product that was found to me as it was built here in India. It took mobile experiences that people have come to just see as being obvious and are now being applied across most products in Microsoft. So that's the one particular product where I believe that design played a crucial role in ensuring that the mental models that users already are well accustomed to are still kept, while ensuring that the complex problem of how enterprises talk to these users was still maintained. So that's, I think, one of the key product areas where I think design played a crucial difference, and how some of the learnings of that product is now translating to most products that we're building at Microsoft.
Thank you so much, Deepak. So what role does diversity and empathy play in design process when aiming for innovation?
So similar to how design plays a crucial role, I would say that both empathy and diversity play a crucial role. So let me talk about them separately. About diversity, let me tell you a story. I'm sure some of the audience may know of it. So Nike, 1985, was struggling. Layoffs, the stock was dropping. Adidas, Reebok, they were all selling more than Nike. Nike then hired a designer, Tinker Hatfield, who was an architect, just like me. And he was very impressed by this building called the Pompidou Center in Paris. And the way the Pompidou Center is built, it actually showed all the structural elements outside, the mechanical, the circulation systems, all of them outside. And so he designed the Nike Air Max that showed what's designed inside the shoe outside. And that's kind of steered, I think, in almost all instances, all product lines across most shoes ever since. And so what this goes back to show is there is this counterintuitive discovery that was, made by this psychologist called Charles Spearman. 1904. Before he discovered, the natural assumption was that the more you specialize in one thing, the worse off you'll be in other things. So what Spearman discovered was the positive manifold phenomena, that different abilities are positively correlated. So the expertise gained through specialization in one is transferred to another one. And so that's the strength of diversity. Imagine if it can do with one individual, what it can do with teams. The ability to kind of bring different ideas across different spectrums is just, I think, unbelievable. So that's why I think diversity plays a huge, huge role in innovation. I'm sure we all understand that as we talk about empathy, we all have to have empathy for who you design for. It's an axiom. If you don't have that, I think we should just forget about building anything, because then it becomes an egotistical exercise of what I know what users want, and let me build it and they'll all come. So that's why I think empathy is important for who we design for. But I think a far more fundamental aspect of empathy is in the process of product making. This is where we ought to have empathy for each process or each part of the process in product making. Far too often I see articles in popular press, and this is where I know I'm pretty controversial, articles in the popular press of, distinctions between research, product design, design engineering, marketing, all trying to draw distinct boundaries in the function. I think it misses the point. In this age where the process of product making and success is literally overnight, it's important that even to build a product, we have to have empathy amongst product makers across different functions. So only then we even have a chance to display our empathy to our users via a product that gets shipped to them. So that's where I would actually like to reinforce, which is empathy for product or empathy for product users. Absolutely, we need that. But we also need to start as, establishing that in the process of product making amongst all functions as well.
Thank you so much, Deepak. So Deepak, you just spoke about empathy. So how do you balance practicality and creativity when designing for innovation?
Designs or ideas are like weeds that need to be removed, or like saplings that need to be nurtured. The dichotomy is truly real. And this is where we have to lean into the product making process that we just talked about, and truly have the tension with other disciplines to make the right choice based on business, experience, or technology. I mean, this is where we have to kind of rely on our colleagues to kind of make sure that we understand the business realities as well as the technical capabilities. And I think I realized it about probably a couple of decades ago when we were designing the ribbon, which is the commanding model that exists right now for Office across Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Outlook. And you've got to, again, realize this was in the days of development of a client product. And I think one of the first instances where we were truly agile across functions. And so going back a few more years before then, we had released Office 97, a huge success because it got Word, Excel, PowerPoint together for the first time. And so it was a raging success. And then after that, we released Office 2000, Office XP, and Office 2003. And what we were slowly observing was that people were buying the software, but not actually deploying it. And one of the key hypotheses that we came up with was they were not seeing the value upfront, the distinction between each of the various versions of offices was not actually giving or showing that value upfront. And discovery of new functionality was not obvious. We were not sitting idle, twiddling our thumbs. We were actually building key functionality, but it was not becoming obvious. And so the business problem was, how do we ensure that people deployed by showcasing value upfront? And you've got to realize the design problem was, how do we ensure that we show value while not breaking the familiar paradigm of how users already used Office? And how do we balance that? And finally, the technical problem is, we came up with all these novel design ideas. How do we actually build it? And that's why I say it was an agile process for probably the first time, where between design, product, management, as well as engineering, we went back and forth, wherein we had to balance truly the practicality of what the business problems were and the technical realities of how products were built, as well as the creativity to show value to, the subsequent version of Office. And I would like to think it's kind of worked, because we still have the ribbon in the current version of Office as well. So yeah. So I think it's a key aspect. You've got to balance the tension between the disciplines. And that's why empathy, as I said earlier, is incredibly key. You've got to build that camaraderie across disciplines so that the disciplines trust each other. And that's how innovation is actually built.
So Deepak, how to create a collaborative and interdisciplinary environment where design works seamlessly with other functions like engineering, marketing, and product management to create innovation?
Oh, this is, in my opinion, so incredibly important. And again, it's another dichotomy, right? We are in an age where a single individual can achieve so much. I mean, they can actually, a single individual can build up a website and scale, but you also need to work with so many people to make it work at scale and continue to make it successful. And so I believe that ideas or innovation is not just the domain of a particular discipline. And here's probably another controversial statement that sometimes as designers, we need to shed our ego, that innovation does not necessarily come from design. We have to be inclusive of all the product makers to ensure that we as design actually build innovations that users actually use it. I think case in point, we have been working on AI for the last few decades, if you will. But I think it had its watershed moment when, like November of 2022, when ChatGPT was released and it got to 100 million users, so quickly within 3 months. And that's why it's so important. It was the technology that made the experience possible. And that's why that interdisciplinary environment and the diverse environment that I talked about before is extremely important, because that's how ideas and innovation gets pollinated across, and true innovation actually gets shipped to our end users.
Thank you so much, Deepak. So when designing for innovation, how do you approach exploring emerging technologies and trends? How to ensure you are staying ahead?
So I think previously I talked about being curious. I think that's probably the most important way of approaching any sort of technology or trend. The world is such a large place. Innovation happens in some of the most unexpected places, at some of the most unreasonable pace as well. Who would have thought, 20 years ago, we would be roaming around with a computer in our pocket? Who would have thought, even a decade ago, that India would have the largest number of financial transactions digitally in the world? Who would have thought that, we would be launching satellites at 100th of the cost as well? So I think being intensely curious is so important in as many diverse fields as possible. And for me, I personally find it very fulfilling to be, curious about dramatically different fields. So I intentionally seek out interesting people and startups who use technology in sometimes totally unrelated fields to what I do most of the time. Like, for instance, I've been having conversations with many startups who are doing some truly innovative things in transportation, in battery, all in the purpose of trying to make a more environmentally and sustainable, planet ultimately. And it's amazing how it truly probably affects all of us as well in the end. So being intensely curious about a number of different fields truly helps us realize how innovation in totally unrelated fields can actually impact us as well.
So Deepak, you mentioned environmental friendly. So how might we incorporate sustainability and environmentally friendly practices in our design innovation?
So I'm an architect. I'm not sure there's some amazing statistic somewhere that I've read that I think buildings are probably the largest users of energy, all up buildings. Can you believe it? So as architects, I can truly see how we can be more environmentally more sustainable. And I think there are more established practices that have happened over the last couple of decades in building buildings. Now in software, in this current age of the cloud and AI, we've got to truly realize that probably the most utilized energy isn't actually getting all the video conferencing that we do, all the information you collect and search for on the internet. And all of these are stored in some data centers in some corner of the world, very close to energy sources. And then you see most of us using possibly dark mode somewhere. All of this, again, weirdly, right? As an architect, building data centers is probably key. And these data centers are sometimes a mile wide and a mile long. Imagine many football fields can fit into one data center. And so I think as product makers, we have to be truly aware of what we are doing to the planet in every aspect of our designs, right from as trivial as one would think, a font that they use, to the amount of time that you would actually want to propagate video conferencing as well. And I think that's, one of the key fundamental responsibilities as us as humans to take care of the planet that we are housed in. I truly believe that it's a huge responsibility as us as product makers to keep that at the center of all what we design.
Thank you, Deepak. So how do you measure the success or impact of an innovative design solution? Are there any metrics or indicators?
Now, I can talk from my point of view. I think first I have to kind of talk about what I truly care about. I truly am galvanized by Microsoft's core mission. It is to empower everyone to achieve more. So I will talk from that context, to achieve more, because I think different products may have different contexts of what is success mean for them. And so in that context, there are, the products that, Microsoft builds for our sets of users are very varied, right? From consumers to information workers to enterprise products that few administrators use. And I think the success or the impact of innovative design solutions will vary across the spectrum because it is so diverse. Again, for enterprise products, it's almost always time to task, a number of iterations to complete the task. And how do you kind of ensure the number of errors are very, very few in that you cannot go wrong in mission critical areas at all. That's for the enterprise. For consumer products, the sniff test that I usually use is, will I use it? Will my close circle use it? And ultimately, will end users use it? And not because I'm creating the product, but because it's available in the market. And will I or my close circle or end users ultimately use the product by their own volition, not forced upon. And then ideally, you want to discount novelty and see if you have a leaky bucket, which is, are users flocking to you because you're incentivizing them, but not sticking around? So you want to kind of ensure that you get a loyal set of users. So there is this notion of do things that do not scale, build for a user who's a fan, will truly love your product, and then figure out how to scale. And I think that's something that I truly, truly believe is the center of, how a design solution can actually have impact.
Thank you, Deepak, for sharing all these insights with us. So what emerging technologies or trends do you find particularly exciting or promising for driving innovation and design?
Oh, there are so many. You talked a little bit about environment and sustainability. I think that's a hugely emergent technology, and so much effort needs to be put there. But let me go back a little bit in time. I think one of the key reasons that I moved back to India and continue being here is because of the ability for technology to democratize so many things. I mean, even in my time here, I've seen technology democratize access. I mean, the fact that, almost everybody has a phone here is truly unbelievable. When I was growing up, very few of us had landlines, but now almost everybody has a cell phone. I've seen digital payments take off. So I truly am here because I believe the power of technology to democratize so many things. And so the emerging technology that I truly am psyched by is the platform shift on AI. And yesterday, I heard something from Professor Raj Reddy. He's a Turing Award winner, and said something that stuck with me about the 5 rights. And I'm going to modify it a little bit and add a 6th one as well. And what he spoke about was something along these lines, and I'll add my 6th right as well. It was the right info to the right people at the right level of detail in the right language at the right time. And I want to say to do the right thing. So it's 6 rights. And we are at that point in time where AI can actually enable that. Again, the right info to the right people at the right level of detail in the right language at the right time to do the right thing. And it's amazing. It kind of captures all the diversity of what can happen and what needs to happen, where technology can truly, truly democratize. And we are at that point in time that, in India specifically, the spectrum of diversity is amazing. It's so diverse that if we can get it right here in India, we can get it right almost anywhere in the world. So I'm truly, truly stoked by this platform shift in AI, because it truly almost democratizes access to both information at the right level of detail in the right language. Some of these things that were missing probably till just about a couple of years ago.
Thank you so much, Deepak, for sharing all these wonderful insights with us. So could you please share with us, how does your day look like? Any interesting stories?
So let me tell you an interesting story. So our kids, so I've got two sons, Advay and Pratyay. They always wanted a dog. I, on the other hand, was ambivalent. Probably on the side of also not wanting one because I knew of the amount of work that it would undertake. Probably some element of sacrifice in terms of possibly vacations as well. And so for some period of time, my wife Ashwini, she was also of the same opinion. It's okay, you can go and pet some, our neighbor's dog or our friend's dogs, and hey, that'd be fine. So I was confident that Ashwini wouldn't relent. And I told my sons, hey, you convince Ashwini and we'll go from there. And then voila, one day Ashwini flips. And now we have this Cocker Spaniel called Dash. But amazingly, I simply love him. In fact, he makes my day. I get up, on the dot, 5:30-ish. And it's an hour that I truly, love because that's probably the only time that I'm not digitally connected. I just take in nature and I take it all in. So I truly love that about Dash, what he has kind of enabled for me. And the other thing I think I mentioned earlier is I love to play as well. That's the other time I truly feel I'm in the moment. So right now I try and play squash every day or every other day at least. And then I'm just beginning to learn this Kerala martial art called Kalari Paita. And so I'm just taking it all in. I'm a little sore as well. But yeah, it's incredibly interesting. And little did I know that it was probably amongst the most ancient of martial arts as well. And then I try to keep between 6 and 8 to hang out with my kids. The rest of the, probably 12 to 14 odd hours, I'm almost always digitally connected to work or the industry or in some other mode. But yeah, that's typically my day. And I don't necessarily say that, there's a work-life difference because I truly love what I'm doing. So yeah.
Thank you, Deepak, for sharing this beautiful story. So we'll conclude the show by your 3 favorite book recommendations and also people who inspire you the most in this space.
I actually like reading articles, and there are probably a few books that have remained over time for me. One of them is a book called Made to Stick. It was something that I had, I think, picked up in 2007, I think. And what remained with me was, what are the ideas that stick? They have a very nice acronym for it. It's called, I think, SUCCESS. It needs to be simple, unexpected, credible, concrete, emotional, and a story. I thought that acronym was brilliant, and that's what makes ideas stick with people. So I really love that book. The second book is a book more about history. It's about Jared Diamond. And it talks about guns, germs, and steel, and how each of them had an amazing impact on human civilization itself. And the third book is more about mental models. It's about, seeking wisdom from Darwin to Munger. And it's about different mental models about, how do you deal with different kinds of situations in life. So those are 3 books I actually go back to many times. And that's what I like about some books over others and sometimes some articles as well. So that's about books. About people, being an architect, there is this architect called Rem Koolhaas. I truly admire. He has a signature style of having no signature style. He allows a place and the local culture to influence his designs. And then he continues to, not be very conventional. And so I truly admire him. And he has had a huge effect of me when I was an architecture student. The second one I truly admire is Sir Ken Robinson. I think he's no more. And he was made popular by a TED Talk. That I found profoundly moving. And in that, he talks about the education system that needs to nurture creativity rather than undermine creativity. So he is someone I'm truly inspired by. And then finally, I think I'm truly inspired by Satya Nadella, simply because of his focus on values, culture, and building an environment to do the best possible work. And the core mission that he has outlined for Microsoft, which I totally align by, which is to empower everyone to achieve more.
Thank you so much, Deepak, for sharing these recommendations. We are looking forward to host you again in our upcoming episodes. Thank you so much for your time.